Welcome to True Freakin' Folktale. Let's get started with today's story. They say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but not everything does. Sometimes the choices we make there follow us home, unraveling the fabric of our lives. I never thought my trip to Las Vegas with my wife, Victoria, would end in heartbreak, betrayal, and an unthinkable revelation. Victoria had been talking about Vegas for months. I booked us a suite at the Venetian, she said one morning, tapping away at her laptop and then turning the screen toward me. Her hazel eyes sparkled with excitement. We deserve this, a little adventure, you know? I wasn't opposed to the idea. Victoria and I had been married for 7 years, and while things weren't perfect, I thought we were solid. The idea of a getaway sounded good, a way to reconnect, maybe rekindle some of that old spark. When we arrived, Vegas was everything I expected: bright lights, chaotic energy, and a sense that anything was possible. But by the second night, Victoria's enthusiasm took an unexpected turn. We were having dinner at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the Strip. Victoria sipped her martini, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Then, she dropped the bombshell. "So, there's this thing I heard about," she began, stirring her drink with the little cocktail straw. "A party, a swinger party." I nearly choked on my steak. "A what?" "You know, a swingers party," she repeated more casually this time. "Couples go explore their boundaries and enjoy new experiences together. It's meant to bring them closer, to strengthen the relationship." Strengthened by what? Trading partners. I tried to keep my tone even, but my pulse was hammering. "Michael, it's not like that," she said, leaning forward, her voice softened, almost pleading. "It's not a big deal, really. People just experiment. It's just one night." "Absolutely not," I said, setting my fork down with a little more force than necessary. "Why are you so uptight about this?" she asked, irritation creeping into her voice. "We've been in a rut, don't you think? We need to shake things up." I shook my head, trying to stay calm. "Victoria, if you think the way to fix our marriage is by going to some debauched party, then maybe we've got bigger problems than I thought." Victoria crossed her arms and stared at me for a long moment. "It's not debauched, it's freeing. You're being so judgmental. And you're being reckless." I shot back. "Listen, Victoria, if you think this is the answer, I'm telling you now, it's not happening." The argument spilled over into the hotel room later that night. She accused me of being controlling. I accused her of disrespecting our marriage. It was ugly, and when I woke up the next morning, Victoria was gone. Her purse was missing, and so were her heels, the black ones she only wore when she wanted to feel confident. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. When she finally texted, it was past noon. "I'm out. I'll be back later." Later turned into hours. By the time she returned, it was late afternoon. I asked her where she'd been, but her answers were vague. She seemed distant, distracted. Then she said it. "I'm going to the party tonight." I stared at her, stunned. "You're joking." She shook her head. "I've made up my mind, Michael. I think it's something I need to do for me." "Victoria, if you go to that party, we're done," I said, my voice cold and steady. "Don't be so dramatic," she replied, rolling her eyes. "It's just one night." "No, Victoria," I said, standing up. "It's not just one night. It's a choice. And you've already made it." She threw her hands in the air. "God, Michael, why do you always have to turn everything into this huge ultimatum? Can't you just trust me for once in your life?" "Trust you?" I shot back, my voice rising. "You're walking out of here to some party where the whole point is to sleep with other people, and you want me to trust you?" "It's not about that," she snapped, her tone laced with frustration. "It's about having an experience, trying something new. Couples do this all the time, Michael. It's healthy." "Healthy?" I said, laughing bitterly. "How is this healthy, Victoria? How does stepping all over our vows make our marriage better?" She folded her arms, glaring at me. "You're impossible to talk to. I'm trying to be open, to bring something new into our relationship, and all you do is shut me down. Because what you're asking is insane." I shouted. "You're not trying to fix anything. You're looking for an excuse to blow it all up. That's not true, she said, her voice softer now. I need this, Michael. I don't know how else to explain it to you. I shook my head, pacing the room. You need this? Well, I need a wife who doesn't think this kind of thing is okay. I can't believe we're even having this conversation. This isn't who we are or who I am. She sighed deeply and sat on the edge of the bed. I've already decided. I'm going. I don't want to fight anymore. I stopped pacing and stared at her. You've decided, just like that? Yes, I did. And I'm not changing my mind, she said firmly. While Victoria got ready for the party, I sat at the desk, staring at my phone. Her reflection in the mirror was the picture of excitement, humming softly, curling her hair, carefully applying lipstick. Meanwhile, I booked the first flight home, scheduled to leave in a few hours. I wanted to leave that night before she returned from the party, so she wouldn't find me in the room the next morning. This wasn't a marriage anymore, at least not to me. Since she was determined to go through with this, our relationship was already over. After booking my ticket, I canceled her return flight. I didn't care how she'd get back, it wasn't my problem anymore. Then, without hesitation, I transferred every dollar from our joint account into my personal account. After what had just happened, Victoria wouldn't have access to any of it for her little Vegas escapades. I set the phone down and exhaled, my chest heavy with anger and disappointment. As the evening crept in, she finished getting ready. She wore a short, glittering dress that hugged her figure, paired with heels that made her legs look longer. She turned to me, catching me staring. What? She asked, tilting her head. I shook my head and stood up. Nothing. She adjusted her earring, her lips twitching into a faint smile. You're sure you don't want to come with me, Michael? This could be good for us. Good for us. I scoffed. Are you hearing yourself, Victoria? You're walking out of this room tonight knowing exactly what it means. It doesn't have to mean anything, she said, crossing her arms. You're the one making it into this huge deal. I stepped closer, my voice rising. You think it's not a big deal to throw away your marriage to do something so selfish and disrespectful? I told you, Victoria, if you go to that party, I'm done. She sighed, leaning back against the dresser. You're always so rigid, Michael. So black and white. I wish you could just let go for once. Then she grabbed her purse from the bed and headed toward the door. She stopped with her hand on the handle, turned to look at me. I'll be back late. Don't wait up for me, she said, her tone defiant. I didn't respond. She left without another word, the door clicking shut behind her. As soon as it did, I grabbed my suitcase from the closet. I packed quickly, tossing my things into the bag with no regard for neatness. My chest ached, but I pushed the feeling down. There was no time for second-guessing now. When I zipped up my bag and looked around the room one last time, it didn't feel like I was leaving a hotel suite. It felt like I was leaving the last 7 years of my life behind, and maybe I was. By the time Victoria was probably arriving at her party, I was already in a cab to the airport, ready to take the first flight home and start a new chapter without her. I landed deep in the night, around 2 a.m., exhausted but resolute. When I got home, I tossed my bag in the corner of the bedroom, collapsed onto the bed, and stared at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come easy, but eventually, the silence of the house lulled me into a restless slumber. The next morning, my phone was buzzing incessantly. I reached for it groggily and saw her name plastered across the screen, Victoria. Missed call after missed call. Her desperation practically radiated through the phone. I sighed and set it down, ignoring the vibration as another call came through. For the next hour, the calls didn't stop. Finally, I picked up, unable to stand the buzzing anymore. Michael, where are you? She demanded, her voice frantic. Why are your things missing? I'm home, I said flatly. I told you that if you go to that party, I am done with you. But you didn't listen. What do you mean you're home? She snapped. You just left me here? You didn't even tell me. I didn't need to, I replied, my tone cold. You wanted to sleep with other men, Victoria. Cool. You can do whatever you want, but I'm not staying in a marriage where I'm disrespected like that. "You're overreacting," she said, her voice trembling, a mix of anger and panic. "It was just one night. I don't even understand why you're being so cruel right now." "Cruel?" I repeated, my voice rising. "You think I'm being cruel? You're the one who walked out the door knowing it would destroy everything between us, and you think I'm cruel." She paused, her breath hitching. "Michael, I didn't think you'd actually leave. I thought you'd cool down, that we could talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," I said firmly. "You went to that party, and that was the last straw for me. I canceled your return flight, by the way, so you'll have to figure out how to get home yourself." "You what?" she shouted. "You can't do that. What am I supposed to do now?" "That's your problem, not mine," I said, refusing to let her guilt trip me. "I don't want you to come home, Victoria. This is over. I'm filing for divorce first thing tomorrow, and I don't want to see you again." "You're divorcing me?" she cried, her voice cracking. "Michael, don't do this. Please, we can work through this. I made a mistake." "No," I interrupted, cutting her off. "You didn't make a mistake, Victoria. You made a choice. And now I'm making mine. I'm done. I'll send your things to your mother's house. Don't bother coming back here." The line went quiet, except for her uneven breathing. I didn't know if she was crying or trying to find the words to fight back, but I didn't care. "I have nothing more to say to you," I said after a long silence. "Goodbye, Victoria." I ended the call before she could respond, tossed the phone onto the couch, and leaned back, exhaling deeply. My heart felt heavy, but there was also a strange sense of relief. I had done the hard thing. I had walked away from something toxic, and I wasn't going to look back. The following days were a blur of paperwork and legal meetings. Her emails and messages came constantly, begging me to reconsider, but I couldn't. I had made my decision. I called Victoria's mother to tell her what had happened and that I would be sending Victoria's things to her house. She was shocked, asking if I was sure. I explained everything, the argument, the party, my decision to leave. Her voice trembled when she spoke. "I can't believe this, Michael," she said, disappointment heavy in her tone. "I never thought it would come to this. I'm so sorry." I tried to keep my voice steady. "It's done, and I'm not changing my mind. I'll send her things over soon." There was a long pause before she sighed. "I just don't understand. You two seemed so happy." "Well, we weren't," I said, the weight of my words hitting harder than I expected. "I need to do what's best for me now." After that, I met with my lawyer and began the divorce proceedings. Victoria's lawyer proposed mediation, but I refused. There was nothing left to discuss. She had made her decision, and now it was time for me to move on. The court dates came and went, each one bringing me closer to closing this chapter for good. Eventually, the divorce was finalized. I hadn't heard from Victoria directly since, and I wasn't sure I ever wanted to again. Life after the divorce was strange at first, quiet, peaceful, but a little unnerving. I started focusing on myself, getting back to things I'd put aside for too long. And while I occasionally thought of Victoria, I realized I had no desire to go back to that life. One day, I got an email from her, an apology. She said she regretted everything, but it was too late. I deleted it without responding. The past was over, and I was finally moving on. I eventually found someone new, a relationship built on respect and trust, something I hadn't had in a long time. I didn't miss my old life. The divorce had been painful, but it was the right decision, and for the first time in years, I felt free. Thank you for watching.